Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 30 of the Zoomer Sports Radio. And as always, I'm Andrew, and today I'm joined by a special guest. He is a MLB outfielder for the Cincinnati Reds, USA baseball player, former Texas Longhorn, alumni of St. Rita of Cassia High School in Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Payton.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Thanks for coming on, Mark. Obviously, I assume you have a busy off season going into the 2021 season, so thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
And I want to start this up. Mark, do you actually know how we originally met?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, crazy story. So, one off season, my trainer at the time, we were looking for a gym. I had a really good friend that said he was working at a gym, new gym. Wasn't very busy at the time, out in I believe it was Downers Grove area, and
Downers Grove, Lombard area,
yeah, yeah. So we decided to use that facility for our off season workouts. Me and a couple other pro guys with our trainer. And you rolled in there. And it's been kind of cool. It's quite some time ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We've kept in touch. I think you were probably seventh grade. I was probably 24.
Yeah, you were in the Yankee system then.
I was still with the Yankees at the time. Obviously two teams away from that now, and times went fast. And but definitely was I remember that off season. Especially making that's a 40-minute drive from where I'm at. And but yeah, no, I definitely remember meeting you and working out together, and it was a good off season.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I believe the trainer was Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba. Yeah. So we're still good friends too. We talk every day, almost every day, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, what's he up doing? Is he still playing? Because he was on the Windy City Thunderbolts back then.
Yeah, so he was playing. Now I believe he's coaching at Morton Community College, trying to work his way up the ranks. And I know he spent some years coaching at St. Xavier, trying to work his way up, and hopefully he gets into the Division I world at some point.
Yeah, and then I want to start with basically how from like your younger days up to the MLB. So growing up, like who was your biggest influence in life? Like not only, I mean, on and off the baseball field, like who was your biggest role model? Like not only baseball player and like who'd you idolize in the MLB? So like it could be anyone on or off the field, any MLB player.
For sure. So, I mean, obviously my biggest idol was my dad. I wanted to just follow his footsteps, and with the way he treats people and the things he does for other people, and just being a good person, whether it's on the baseball field, off the baseball field, just doing what you can to help other people. And so, for sure, that was my biggest idol growing up, and to this day still is. I think if you had to take a favorite baseball player growing up, I mean, obviously Cal Ripken playing every day. Not many guys are able to play as many games in a row as he did. I can't remember the number, but I think it was in the 2000s somewhere, 2164 maybe. I'm not sure, but other than that, I think Dustin Pedroia probably was a huge influence. Just being a smaller guy and getting the most max potential out of his body at the big league level, and realizing if he can do that at 5'7" or 5'6", whatever he may be, I can do that at the same height. So that was, just watching him play and how hard he plays, and how, the fans appreciated the way he played, his whole career really kind of, gave me hope at a young age that like, hey, you can do this at your size.
Oh, Pedroia, great pick. I mean, the man, his body might not want it, but he is still on the roster every year, still trying to get it. He's just grinding. And that's just awesome. I mean, Pedroia, no doubt, Hall of Famer, I think.
I believe so too.
I mean, he would definitely get in before Cano, but Pedroia, just ultimate competitor. He's a gamer. Pedroia is just one of the, obviously he's in the ranking for all-time second basemen with like Ryan Sandberg, Joe Morgan, Rod Carew. Just he's in that conversation for sure.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's just like, you have your super talented guys that, there's one guy every 5 or 6 years that comes along, your Bryce Harper's, your Mike Trout's, your Fernando Tatis's, and then on the pitching side, your Scherzers and Strasburgs and Bowers and DeGroms. Like, you have these guys that are the best in the world at what they do. And, we look up to those guys still. I still look up to those guys, but I know I'll never be those guys because, they're just gifted more. They're just more gifted than I am. So for me to try to do what Mike Trout does as an outfielder, it's just not going to happen. But me watching Dustin Pedroia and how he maxes, like I said, he gets the most potential out of what he can do. And the baseball world sees that, or the Adam Eatons of the world who, same thing, not the biggest guy in the world, but the guy gets, he's in the lineup every day, every year when he's healthy, and he's going to have a long big league career. And like guys like that, for me to look up to, really drives me to try to do what they're doing, not just because of their size, but I believe they play the game the right way. When they don't have the tools like the Trouts and the Harpers and the Mookie Bettses of the world, where those guys are going to go out and hit, 310, 320 with 30, 35 homers, that's tough for us little guys to do. So we got to do the little things the right way. And I think for me personally, to try to, match up my game with a guy of similar stature or similar tools as I have, and how those guys really get the most out of what they have, really, kind of jumps me to try to do what they do.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. And then I'm gonna shift over into your high school days. Obviously, you played at St. Rita, and you played for Cangelosi Sparks, who it's funny. I played them this year. I was the starting pitcher, and I actually hit the first two guys to start the game. So that was pretty funny. First batter, I have him down 0-2. I spike a curveball into his foot.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it was just, I mean, I actually didn't pitch terrible that day, but it wasn't my day. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's I grew up and, I was always fortunate at a young age to have like I told you, my dad was my idol, and he was a coach, and he was surrounded by two or three other good coaches throughout my Sparks career, basically from the time I was 9 till 18. We were basically all intact together from, for those 9 years, 10 years. And, you know, between that and just watching the games on TV and watching other kids play, and always kind of just being around the game and being a student of the game, really helped me kind of understand and have a good baseball sense and a good baseball IQ. And, but the Sparks, it was great. I mean, obviously jump started me to get into St. Rita High School and play there and get on the varsity team as a freshman. Um, and from there, just, I wish, looking back, I still wish I would have won a state championship. It still haunts me at night, losing two state final games and one time in the semifinals. So, I mean, we were downstate three out of my 4 years, and not winning a state championship still haunts me to this day. Even after college and after playing in the big leagues, I still wish I would have won a state championship, but definitely had a great experience, 4 years at St. Rita, all boys private high school in the city. The camaraderie and the family atmosphere that school creates. I wish a lot of people can really experience that.
yeah, and then what sucks even more is like guys my age losing that season due to COVID. It's just really tough. Like, I don't know how you would go through that, especially with your team competing for state championships every year. Like, what would you have done in that high school situation?
Oh man, that's tough because, at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And if somebody puts on a block, a stoppage to your season, and, I feel terrible for the seniors that didn't get a chance to play their last season. Basically from the time you're a freshman, something you really look forward to is your senior season, whether it may be football, basketball, baseball. That senior season in high school is something people remember, when you're in that senior class. And so I feel absolutely terrible for those guys, and even every age, I feel terrible because I believe the world needs sports. And, I think it gives a sense of peace to everybody when they, whether it's you turn on a Friday night, you're sitting at home Friday night and you see a high school football game on, or, the 1 or 2 games a year that they throw a high school baseball game on TV. And I think, for guys not to get able to do that because it was out of their hands really stinks, and it's a terrible thing. And I hope that they can figure it out and get a full season in this year. Not only just not only for recruiting purposes or for guys to play at the next level, but just for guys to be out there and play the game of baseball. You don't know when it's going to be your last day. There's a lot of seniors that they didn't know that their last game, their junior season, was the last time they would ever play a baseball game. And I think when you put that in perspective, I think it really stinks for the guys that got that taken off their plate.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of the quote from Moneyball by Billy Bean, like, everyone's told they can no longer play the kids' game. It's some at 18, some at 40.
Right.
And that quote like sticks to me. I think it should stick with every ball player as they go on. And then you were talking about the recruiting process. Like, can you go over like how you got recruited into Texas and like what other options, like what other colleges were offering you?
Yeah, for sure. So, it started young. I mean, when I was going through it, they really had strict rules on, basically the timing, when schools can talk to you, when they can't talk to you, how they can communicate with you. Um, I'm not exactly sure of all the rules now. I do know that now guys are really committing, as freshmen, sophomore, like super early. But for me, it was a little different. I mean, so the fall baseball season was extremely important for us here in the Midwest, just because college schools are not coming out during the spring high school season, or they're basically the first half of a summer season, just because they're playing. So the back half of the summer and the fall were very, very important for people in the Midwest that played fall ball. And we used to do basically, I don't want to call them showcases, but we would do almost like a showcase tournament where we would play 3 or 4 other really quality teams at specific colleges, whether it be Louisville or Illinois or Purdue or Northwestern. We would play at Indiana, and there'd be 3 or 4 colleges out there, or whatever the case. So that was kind of how the recruiting started, and then we did some, maybe I did, I don't know, maybe 4 showcases in my whole life. They weren't as big as they are now. But every year, I was very lucky to go down to play in the World Wood Bat down in Jupiter every October from the time I was a freshman till senior. For me, that was huge because I was playing against guys 4 years older than me, right out of the gate. And, what I believe is the best tournament in all of baseball for high school kids. And there's every school there, every pro scout is there. Everything you can think of. It's a crazy environment, but so I was lucky to go there 4 times, and just being able to compete with those guys, I think at a young age, showed me that I could play at a college level. And I was fortunate to get recruited by quite a bit of the amount of schools that I was recruited by was there were quite a bit of them, but at the end of the day, I picked Texas. I have a crazy recruiting story if you want me to get into that. But
I'd love if you got into it.
Okay, cool. So, my dad played at Illinois. When I was a little kid, I never knew I would have a chance to play college baseball. And, Illinois recruited me. They were the first school to get on me. And I was really excited to, possibly play there. So they kind of gave me a scholarship offer. And a couple, I was thinking on it. My parents told me, hey, think on it. Don't say yes right away. Just think. A couple of days later, I get a couple, at the time most of it was all mail, just recruiting questionnaires and stuff. And I started getting some recruiting questionnaires from really big schools. And I'm like, well, maybe let's think about this. Let's wait a little bit and see what happens. And, I don't remember how it happened, but somehow South Carolina wanted me to contact them.
South Carolina. That's like they're one of
Yeah.
the best every year.
So that made me think. Not saying Illinois is a below step at any mean, but when I knew schools like that had a chance to come and recruit me, I'm like, okay, well, I get to be outside all year round. I get to play in a really, really good conference where I think I might make a bigger jump to help me, play professional baseball after college. So I go on a visit to South Carolina and absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm like, all right, well, they're my number one now. Okay. And then I start getting some recruiting letters from other colleges. And then all of a sudden, Arizona State comes out. So we go down to Arizona State. and they become my number one. And what happens is I end up committing there. So I commit to Arizona State as a junior, really early in my junior school year, and absolutely fall in love with it. Full on Sun Devil, like absolutely loved it.
Man, that's where Pedroia went too.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was Pedroia was there. I mean, Ian Kinsler was there for a short amount of time. There was a kid from
Andre Ethier, I think, was there.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys there. There's a kid from Joliet that was there when I committed named John Rudiger. He was an outfielder. He's from Joliet. He was there. Cole Calhoun was there. So they had some, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then, so we'll fast forward my senior year, still committed to Arizona State. National Signing Day comes. I believe it's the first or second Tuesday every year in November. And I signed my letter of intent to go to Arizona State. There was some school issues happen, not personal school issues, but issues that happened at Arizona State, which put the baseball team in jeopardy. My senior year, they didn't know what was going to happen for the next couple of years of that program. And the NCAA granted me my release in probably March of my senior year. So I'm stuck. I wasn't stuck, but I was with Arizona State, wondering what was going to happen as a senior in high school. In November, December, January, March comes around, the NCAA gives my release, and we graduate. I'm getting ready for my high school season. I don't have time to go on visits anywhere else. I find a trip, find schools, find out I get my release from the NCAA, are able to contact me at this point. And I hear from, a couple of Notre Dame and Louisville, and then Texas comes. And we go down to Texas, and I had graduated high school already. I finished my high school season. I had just been drafted by the Twins, and I had no college to go to. But Texas comes calling and says, hey, we had a scholarship open up because one of your teammates, who at the time in summer baseball for the Sparks was Mike Foltynewicz, was picked in the first round by the Braves, or no, the Astros. I can't remember if it was the Astros or Braves, who ended up signing. So Texas had a scholarship open up, and we went down there. I took a visit. We walked around the campus, committed literally on the spot, which I don't recommend anybody committing on the spot ever, just because you need to think about things. But I knew it was the right place, and it was probably the greatest decision I'd made to this day.
Yeah, I mean, like I see you were drafted 3 times by the Twins, obviously the Yankees, and I believe the Indians.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What went through your mind? Like, an MLB team is interested in me. Should I not even go to college? Should I leave college a season early, or should I? What made you stay at Texas for that 4th year?
Okay, so that was a really tough decision. The one, out of high school, it wasn't a terribly hard decision, just with how everything played out. But that junior year, when I got taken by the Indians, that was very, very tough to turn down. My freshman year at Texas, we went to Omaha. My sophomore and junior years, we were not very good. We were a very good team. We never came together. We never clicked at the right time. So we had 2 really down years. And for me, I didn't want to leave that school on a bad note. And I think at the end of the day, I wanted to leave that place better than when I got there. And I got there and we went to Omaha. So my goal was, there was we had a pitcher that I came in with, the same situation happened. He got drafted as a junior. We kind of talked to each other. We knew the situation, what was going to happen senior year, what our team was going to look like. Kind of all the ins and outs of, like, hey, can we turn this program back around and get it back to where it needs to be? Or, is this too far fetched and, we're just out of time. We went back to school, both of us. And probably the greatest decision ever. We got back to Omaha that year, and, very grateful. We put together a really good Omaha run too. Something, we were not the most talented team by any means in our conference. When we got to super regionals and regionals and super regionals, we played as a team. We got there. We got to Omaha. We were definitely not the most talented team, and we were one run away from getting to a national championship game. But I mean, just being able to go there, go back as a senior, and being able to get back to where that the program at Texas belongs. That program belongs to be a top 10 baseball program every year in my eyes. And for me to leave it, basically as a junior going one game of over 500 was not okay. But it was tough not to start my pro career a year earlier. But I know to this day, people ask me all the time, I know I made the right decision.
I mean, yeah, I've been to Omaha as a 12-year-old for one of the youth tournaments. I think it was awesome. I actually went the year Vanderbilt won it all with a very talented team: Dansby Swanson, Walker Bueller, Carson Fulmer, Tyler Beatty. All these guys have been in the majors, and now Omaha, it's such of a unique, one of a kind experience. It's like college sports. I just feel like because like it's all there. Everyone's playing for the game. Like that's what I love about like the college football playoff, March Madness. It's just different than pro sports.
For sure. I mean, I got a little taste this year with the Reds. I was on the taxi squad during the playoffs, and so we were able to be with the team. We were with the team in Atlanta, and I think there were 5 of us that were there, and so we got that experience. And those 2 games, I know we didn't win one, but like those 2 games was the closest. And this whole season, in 2020, with only playing 60 games, every game felt like a playoff game because you couldn't have a bad week. If you had a bad week, you were out of the playoff hunt, just in such a short season. But, the college atmosphere during a playoff run or a conference tournament run or whatever it may be is just so different. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm
So,
still here.
I had a phone call coming in. It's just it's just a completely different environment and atmosphere, and the backing that the schools have is absolutely incredible. We played, so my freshman year, we played the regional and super regional to go to Omaha at our home in Austin. My senior year, when we made the run, we had to play our regional at Rice in Houston, and that was a hostile environment. That regional had Texas A&M, Rice, us, and I believe George Washington University, which was the 4th seed. But it's cool to see how each school, their fan base travels, and how passionate college fan bases really are. I mean, like you said, you see it in the college football playoff or March Madness, how college fans travel. And in professional sports, you don't see that many people travel. It's mostly just people from that city. They may be a fan of the visiting team, but it's mostly just people from that city going to the game or whatever the case. But just the passion and how everything kind of plays out in the college world during the playoffs is really cool. And for me to get to experience that this year with the Reds, on the pro side was, I mean, the intensity was definitely just as close, if not better, than the college playoff. But just, I mean, from a college standpoint, you're with those guys every single day, with the exception of winter break. You are with them every day in class, study hall, practice. You live with them. You're constantly around people. It just means so much because that's basically your family for 4 years, 3 or 4 years, however long you're there. And I think that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, and then going on about like what's unique about the NBA, NHL, and MLB is they have so many games, and like the fans like to travel. That's what different with the NFL. With there's only 16 games. That's when you see like the Steelers, the Cowboys. They will have traveling fan bases. But move into your minor league career here. Obviously, very unorthodox path to the major leagues. 5 years in the minors. Rule 5 draft pick situations, like going to the A's, going to the Reds, being in the Yankee system, and just like what like you obviously played for in front of more fans in the minor league system than you did in the MLB, which is kind of crazy.
For sure.
But like, what's like one of some of your best stories from the minor leagues, and like, how difficult is that minor league grind, and that everyone says it is?
I mean, it's tough. You know, I talk to people all the time about, minor league lifestyle. It's not all the glitz and glam like people think it may be, or whatever the case. I mean, you're packed into apartment rooms to save money. And, most of my career, I had 5 roommates in the minor leagues, in a 2-bedroom place. And, we would sleep on air mattresses. It was nice to go on the road because you would have a hotel bed. Like, so, but, it's a once in a lifetime thing to get a chance to play professional baseball. And, don't get me wrong, it's a blast, but I mean, there are some points where you're like, you're on an 8-hour bus ride and you're leaving after a 7 o'clock game, and you get into a city and the sun's coming up, and you're like, man, I gotta go to the park in 7 hours, and I haven't been in a bed yet. And, and the food's not always great and whatever it may be, but man, like, what an experience. And, very fortunate to have it. There's times in career you're going to feel extremely lonely. You're around guys, that become really good friends. And I have some of my best friends were guys I've played with in the minor leagues, and, we keep in touch and everything. But, I mean, it's lonely sometimes. You take an 0 for 4 and you're driving home, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and, you see another outfielder get called up that to the next level the next day, and you're like, man, maybe if I didn't go for 4 with 3 strikeouts yesterday, it could have been me. Or, like, you're waiting for opportunities that you can't control. You could play as good as you want, but something's not there yet, for you to move to the next level, whatever it may be. So there are some lonely times, but I mean, the amount of times on the reverse side, going in, seeing the world through baseball, seeing the country through baseball, driving, like I said, the 8-hour bus rides, or the 6 a.m. flights, or, whatever it may be, going and seeing the country through that ways. And the in-between inning games that they put on with the fans that make you laugh, or, the whatever it may be. I mean, like, walk-off hits, or, I've been a part of a lot of cool walk-offs. I've been part of a no-hitter. So, like, there's things that, that stick in your memory, or, like hitting a grand slam, or a 2-homer game, or whatever it may be, something that just sticks in your mind. Even as a young baseball player, you remember things and you're like, man, like, baseball is an absolutely awesome game. And I think that's what keeps me going, and kept me going in the minor leagues for so long, was like, I love playing this thing, and I don't want to give it up until somebody tells me, like, hey, you're done. Like, you can't, nobody's going to pick you up anymore. Like, it's it. Um, but like, for me, that minor league grind, as much of a grind as it is, it's some of the best times you're going to have playing baseball, just because you get to look back and you'll be like, man, I slept on an air mattress for 4 seasons. And, in no other profession in the sports world do you probably hear that.
Yeah,
And it's just cool.
I mean, the only when I can hear is maybe in the NBA G League you do that, but I don't even know then. I don't know enough about the G League for that. But I want
Right.
to talk about your 2019 season with
Okay.
the Las Vegas Aviators. So you spent 5 years in the Yankee system. You get Rule 5 draft picked by the Oakland A's. You're on the Aviators AAA team. You're in a new ballpark in the middle, or you're in Las Vegas. So there's a lot of distractions easily that could be there. And you go on to have a career year, hitting 30 homers, 97 RBIs, batting 334. That's crazy. And was it the change of scenery? Was it the new teammates, new coaching? Or was it the Jack's batting gloves that just uh
It may have
elevated
been
your
the
career?
Jacks. I think a lot. Sometimes you need, in the game of baseball. I love the Yankees. They treated me really well. They gave me a chance to get into professional baseball. I'll never say anything bad. Um, but sometimes you need a change of scenery to kind of get a spark going again. Not saying that I didn't have a spark with the Yankees or I wasn't driven or anything. And, I got, when I got that opportunity to go over to Oakland, I didn't take it lightly. I didn't, my training didn't really change. Nothing really happened. I just, I started realizing what pitchers were trying to do to get me out or trying to do to get our lineups out. And, there's this thing, and just growing as a hitter, instead of launching balls, trying to launch balls during BP in rounds 3, 4, and 5, I didn't do that anymore. Kind of just maturing, just, hey, let's barrel accuracy, where's the swing at today, instead of, okay, let's go the other way round 1, let's go up the middle round 2, and then, all right, home run derby for 3, 4, 5. Where, not saying that's what I've always done, but I really took BP with a purpose. And I think that, instead of, I'll go into analytics really quick. For me, hitting a ball at 30 degrees launch angle and batting practice does me no good, because in the game that turns to 35 degrees or 40, and that's just a lazy fly out. I kind of work the opposite way. In BP, I wanted to have my angles around, 12, 13, 14, maybe even down to 8. And, for everybody listening, like an 8-degree launch angle and batting practice would basically be a line drive right at an infielder. Just so people can kind of understand. And 12 to 15 would probably be anywhere from a one hop to a line drive caught at an outfielder. Just so people can kind of understand where I was kind of coming from. So I started doing that. And then, there's this thing called confidence. And I saw it from it in my own eyes. With it happened in other people's career. They get a little bit of it, and then they just take off. And I'm like, is this ever going to happen to me? Am I ever going to get this confidence that these guys have, where, they're really good players, but they've never really taken off. And I saw it with the Yankees with a couple guys, and you're like, man, am I ever going to get this thing where I could ride this wave for a season? And it's, as crazy as it sounds, like, this confidence thing. I went to the park in 2019 knowing I was going to hit 2 or 3 balls hard every day. I knew at some point that 2 balls were going to come out, at least 2 at bats, I was going to hit the ball hard. Now, whether those were hits or outs, I don't know. But knowing going to the park that you're going to put the barrel on the ball at least twice in a game, it changes the dynamic of your at bats and changes the dynamic of how you think. And this wave of confidence completely changed. And I realized that we're about halfway through the season. I'm like, man, I know I'm gonna hit the ball hard today a couple times. Where it's like, hey, I hope I get a hit, and then I hope I get another one. It's like, no, like, whatever happens, but I know I'm gonna hit the ball hard a couple times today, at least a couple times. Where I think in the past, earlier in my career, it was like, hey, let's try to get 1 hit, and then let's go for 2, and then let's go for 3, instead of being like, you know what, just go hit the ball hard. Like, I knew I was going to hit the ball hard. When earlier in my career, I was almost chasing hits, where I think that, those 3 things, I think, really kind of changed that 2019 season.
Yeah, I mean, your different approach, batting practice reminds me of Charlie Blackmon's approach. Back in 2018, the Rockies are at Wrigley Field. I always go early for batting practice. I'm trying to catch balls in the bleachers out at Wrigley or get autographs for the game, but I was watching Charlie Blackmon take BP, and obviously, as a fan, I'm bummed that he's not launching balls in the stands like Nolan Arenado was, and like I think Cargo was on that team.
Oh, yeah.
But Blackmon, every time he would not hit a ball right of the center field like net behind second base. He would not. And basically, when everything was oppo, everything was left center gap, and it was pretty impressive to watch. Like, he would everything. The pitch would be high, low, and that's just like the mentality I believe that you were talking about. Or just
Yes.
changing it, just sticking to the fundamentals.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, as a fan of the game, I was the same way. I used to go watch batting practice whenever my dad or mom would take me and get tickets, and we'd go to a White Sox or a Cubs game, whatever it may be. I'm like, I'm going early for batting practice because I want to go catch 4 home run balls during BP. And, so it's not a very, like, when you watch somebody take a batting practice like that, And now everybody's got their own routines. Everybody's got their own BP, and at some point, yeah, I think it's fine to turn on a ball and see if just it's in the back pocket, basically. You turn on, hit a homer and BP. You're like, all right, well, I got it. It gets there today. You don't need to take 4 rounds of home run derby or whatever the case. And I think that's what you're talking about, Charlie Blackmon. Like people that understand the game of baseball kind of realize, like, hey, he's doing something to get him ready to play a game, to take 4 or 5 at bats at 7 o'clock. He's not doing this for he's taking his BP for him and for his team, and so that he's ready to play in a game, instead of, all right, let's see what I can do in BP to make me feel good, but it does me no good in the game.
Yeah, and I think your teammate Joey Votto also does this perfectly. Because I mean, I've never seen him hit BP before, but I was watching MLB Network, and I think he was talking with former Red Sean Casey about his approach during the game. And they're talking about one game he went 0 for 5, but he's happy with his performance because he squared up 5 balls
Mm-hmm.
and they were all outs, but he was still happy with his performance. And I think that goes with Yogi Berra's quote that baseball is 90% mental. Like 0 for 5, obviously that doesn't look good at the box score, but the box score doesn't tell everything. And
Right.
I think that's a huge thing for MLB players or baseball players in general.
Yes, there's a thing, like I said, the confidence, like everybody wants to get hits. Everybody wants to hit 300. Everybody's chasing these numbers, but we can't, like I said, we can't control what the defense is doing, or, like, let's use this as a quick example. If I line out to the center fielder and I hit it, 100, say I hit it 100 miles an hour exit velocity, I'm like, darn, I wish that would have been a hit, but like I should have as much confidence as if I would have just hit a double in the gap, because you just squared up a really good pitcher. You barreled it up, you hit it hard. You can't do anything about it. And now, like guys get frustrated because, they hit a ball hard into the shift, or you can't control that. Like, as baseball players, we can't. You just go up there, try to hit the ball hard, and try not to chase numbers. And I know that's extremely tough because you have to have numbers to move up in this game. But the more I'm around it, what I realize is a 300 hitter is going to hit 300, a 280 hitter is going to hit 280, a 270 is going to hit 270, a 220 is going to hit 220. A guy that hits 30 homers a year is going to hit around 30 homers every year. That's just the way the game of baseball is. It all evens out at some point. It stinks at the time when you take an over 5 with 5 lineouts, but you should have confidence because your swing's where it needs to be.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna shift over once again, talk about your USA Premier 12. How, I mean, how amazing is it to represent the country to go play? I believe you guys played in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was, I mean, obviously a once in a lifetime thing. And, hopefully one day I get a chance to represent the country again, maybe in the Olympics
World
or whatever
Baseball
the case.
Classic.
Yeah, it was, it's different, putting USA across your chest, hearing the national anthem with USA across your chest is a different feeling. Knowing that you are representing the country puts a pretty big, heavy burden on your shoulders. But, I mean, man, we came up a little short, but what an experience. Like I said, getting to see, the world through baseball. We started in Mexico. We played 3 games in Mexico against the Netherlands, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico. We made it out of that round. We went directly from Mexico to Japan, went to Tokyo, and we played against South Korea. We played against Japan, played against Taiwan. We played against Mexico again, played against Australia. And the styles of baseball from country to country varies a lot. So understanding, and you could take things from that, Japan and, the Asian countries, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan are very good at small ball, very good at putting the ball in play. They don't strike out much. They're very fundamentally sound. Australia, same type of game. I mean, they played us tough. Mexico, they had some power in there. And, so you just see the way baseball's played throughout the world. But I'll never forget playing against Japan in the Tokyo Dome, and, how their fans basically sing the whole game. And I thought that was really, really cool. Just the energy in the stadium. while we were playing them. And, I guess it's like that during their normal season, during their NPB season. It's, their fans sing, their fans travel, and they sing for them the whole game. And they really, really, really care about baseball. The one thing I really remember, I went and made a diving catch in left center, and their fans actually, against Japan, and their fans actually cheered for me, where I feel like if we do that here on the road, we're getting booed.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely like Yankee Stadium or
yeah,
you
so it
probably
was
get
cool.
booed at Wrigley.
Oh, we would definitely get booed, but they respect the game of baseball, and they respect good plays, and home runs, whether they Japan were to hit them or we hit them, or we had a strikeout or they struck us out. The fans were they were just happy to watch baseball, and they respected the game.
Yeah, and you guys are a very talented team. A bunch of guys have made it to the MLB. Obviously, Joe Adell, who was like the top prospect, Alec Baum for the Phillies, Jake Cronenworth, Bobby Dahlbeck, just a bunch of guys. Eric Kratz, a career-long catcher,
Mhm.
just a very talented team.
Oh man, and that was what was cool is I had never really played with any of those guys, maybe a couple of them, and I knew who everybody was, everybody knew who everybody was, but just getting a chance to play with those guys, and all of us pick each other's brains, and really come together really quickly. We basically practiced for 2 weeks before, as a team before we left for the tournament, and how quickly we came together, and the bond we shared while we played together, and how we all keep in touch to this day, basically over a year. It's been over a year now, and but man, what an experience.
And 2020 offseason, you're with the A's. You get Rule 5 picked with the Cincinnati Reds, which, for those listening don't know the Rule 5, it's a kind of a wacky draft. Like you if you make the team, you're on the team when you're drafted. If you make the team, you're on the 25 man or the 26 man now the whole year, unless you're injured. And if you aren't, you get offered back to the team that had you originally at the A's. So you got picked for the Reds, and going into spring training, you're battling for a spot. I mean, you had a bunch of guys. I mean, Cincinnati loaded outfield, that one of the best in the leagues, obviously up there with the Yankees, Rays, Dodgers. I would say you got Castellanos, Shogo, Jesse Winker, Aquino, just a bunch of guys, and yourself, obviously. And then back then you had Travis Janikowski, a speedster, and it was
Yeah.
between. I thought it was between you and Travis for that last spot, that 26 spot, or was it like 28 guys start the season
Yeah, it
because of the
was
COVID?
28. Well, they didn't know. The first spring training was 26. And then when we stopped for the pandemic, and we took the 2.5 months off and started, then they put it out to 28 when we started the second spring training in July.
Yeah, so going into that spring train, I pretty much want to know, like, what was going through your mind? Like, you're battling for your livelihood, you're battling for a job, and they cancel off spring training, and like was like a Wednesday.
Yeah, we were basically 7 days away from spring training being done. We were basically, eight. I think we were 9 days away from opening day. Every day that got checked off the calendar where I didn't get sent back to Oakland, obviously for me was a great day, and I was one day closer to reaching, my childhood dream of playing in the big leagues. And we get shut down, and basically for 3 months my head was spinning. Like you're like, man, we were so close from having an answer from this thing, either going, not saying going back to Oakland was a bad thing, but like I said, from reaching a childhood dream, I was basically 7 days away from knowing my fate of something I worked my whole life for. And getting shut down, and not knowing when we were getting sent, started back up, was just like, man, are we going to play this year? Are we not going to play? What's going to happen? Are they going to have, is it going to be expanded rosters? Are they going to carry extra outfielders? Are they going to carry, what are they, what's every team going to do? Are they going to carry extra pitchers with those spots? So my head was spinning, and, the Reds, they were great. They kept in contact the whole time. Obviously we were shut down. We couldn't go into the complex. I stayed out in Arizona. Everything was shut down, just like everybody knows. And, I would go out to an open, empty park with a bunch of grass and play catch with one guy and do some running stuff, and had a TRX band. And I mean, that was to the extent that we had to basically make up our own workouts to try to stay ready for, at the time we didn't know when we were going to start again. But, So that's what I did for 3 months. And then, head back this way when we found out spring training was going to be at the big league stadium for spring training too. Got out of Arizona and went to Cincinnati, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was basically starting from ground zero again. At the time, I felt like I was in a good spot. They had just increased the rosters to 30 for the first 2 weeks and then down to 28. So I felt good. I probably put too much pressure on myself still in that spring training to make the team. And as you know, pressure in baseball is never a good thing, especially when you're putting it on yourself.
Yeah.
Because, I was worried about the outcome of what was going to happen in, 3 weeks down the road, instead of maybe a 2-1 pitch. I know that's on a big scale. But it was all I thought about, just fulfilling a childhood dream, instead of going every day, just ready to compete. I was worried about what was going to happen when the rosters came out. And same type of thing, as every day went off, I checked it off the calendar and I was still a Red. We were 4 days away from camp being done. And they just, they brought me into the manager's office and told me like, hey, we want to keep you and everything. We're going to put you on waivers and send you back to Oakland just because we don't know if we can keep you on the roster, for the whole season. And being a Rule 5, that's one of the downfalls is you have to be on the roster day one till the season ends. And they knew, as every team knew this year, it was going to be a playoff type atmosphere every single night during a 60-game season. And every roster spot is extremely, extremely valuable, especially with the way the Reds play. And, they use every position player almost every night with pinch hitting or pinch running or defensive replacement.
Especially with Michael Lorenzen being able to play
Yeah,
the outfield too.
right. And, we had tons of guys, and so they were great. And they tried keeping me after waivers. They couldn't make a deal originally with Oakland. They couldn't make a trade deal originally. So what happened is I went from Cincinnati to the alternate training site in Oakland. It spent, I believe, 12 days out there
Before going back to Cincinnati.
And I get a phone call after a practice, after an alternate site day with Oakland, from their general manager, and said, hey, stay by your phone. I think we're sending you back to Oakland. Or I'm sorry, we're sending you back to Cincinnati. And I'm like, well, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see if this is real. Anyways, like 10 minutes later, Cincinnati's GM calls me again and says, Mark, we got you back. Great. Wish we could have done this 12 days ago. So went back, flew out of Oakland the next morning, right back to Cincinnati. Went to the alternate site. Well, actually I had to sit out for 2 days because of COVID protocols. Just make sure I didn't have a positive test. I had to have 2 negative tests. So I was sitting around in my apartment still in Cincinnati waiting. Passed both of them, went to the alternate training site in Cincinnati for 5 days. And then the team went on, actually, the big league team was going on I believe at the time was a 12-day road trip between Kansas City, St. Louis, and Milwaukee. And they hadn't announced the taxi squad yet. And I'm on my way home once again after an alternate training site, and get a call from the guy that was running the alternate training site in Cincinnati and says, hey, you're going to go on the taxi squad this week. Come back and grab all your stuff. You leave, you'll go to the Great American Ballpark, watch the game there, and then you'll get on the flight with the team and basically be part of the team, but on the taxi squad. So we go to Kansas City that night. The next morning, wake up, the game actually gets canceled due to COVID stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, my first day that was supposed to be in a visiting big league ballpark gets canceled due to just some COVID issues. So they schedule a double header for the next day, and those games happen. But it was really cool just getting to take BP on a big league stadium, kind of go through a full big league day, even though I wasn't on the team. I was just traveling. Was pretty surreal, just getting to go through, like I said, go through a big league day. You're at a big league hotel, have very nice breakfast, very nice lunch, all the stuff that you hear about and how, Major League Baseball players get treated, was really cool. And, just even being in a visiting locker room it's a little bit different than a minor league visiting locker room. But yeah, so we get through there, and that was kind of my story. And then, we go to St. Louis. Same thing. Go through a day for first game, then go sit in the stands and watch it. Go through the day and day two in St. Louis, and watch the game in the stands. Day three, I'm actually talking to one of my friends in the lobby waiting on the bus. And then, I see one of my other buddies come down, and he says, "Hey," I said, "Where are you going with your suitcase?" He's like, "I got sent down, blah, blah, blah." I'm not thinking of anything. And I get to the park and I hear my name from David Bell, our manager. And I'm like, damn, he's sending me back to, like, I wasn't thinking anything. I wasn't on the 40-man roster. I'm like, well, there's, he's just sending me back. They're going to get another pitcher out here on the taxi squad just in case. He says, "Hey man, congratulations. You're a big leaguer." And to me, that was the coolest thing ever, because I wasn't expecting it at all. I had no thoughts of it whatsoever. And like, it just hit me as a shock. I went and just kind of soaked it in, went and sat in the stands for probably 20 minutes by myself, and just like thought about, you have a lot of thoughts racing through your mind. Finally called my girlfriend Amber, called my family. It was very emotional, but at the end of the day, I had to get ready to play a game in 4 hours. So and that was really the first game all season that at this time, we're probably 30 games into the season. Major League Baseball was probably 30 games in, and this was basically my opening day. I hadn't been, at the alternate training site, whether it be Oakland or Cincinnati. You're playing 4 innings max. Most games were 2.5, 3 innings, just because they just don't have the amount of pitching. I mean, at the alternate training site. So for me, it was like my opening day game, 32 or whatever it might have been. And, it was surreal. And, I mean, something I'll never, ever forget.
I mean, unfortunately, I think what sucked for you is that your girlfriend, your parents, your friends, close friends, family couldn't be in the stands to watch you make your debut.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it stinks. I wish everybody was there. I'm happy, everybody that, I'm very thankful for everybody that reached out to me. I got tons of pictures of people watching games, people buying the MLB subscription on their app just to watch. Was really cool.
Me
And
ordering
then,
a jersey.
yeah, people bring, like you order a jersey. I mean, just to see how everything kind of plays out is very surreal. And, I'm just very grateful for the amount of support that I've had, and support I didn't know I had, even through the minor leagues, and people following my career, and whatever it may be. It's very surreal. And, like I said, I'm very grateful.
I mean, yeah, first of all, I mean, playing in front of no fans, totally different atmosphere. I mean, you could hear what everyone was saying on the TV telecast. I mean, it was pretty fun to watch guys like your teammate Trevor Bauer after a big strikeout or
Yeah.
some just Trevor Bauer, probably one of the best players to watch in baseball. I mean, he was the best pitcher in the National League this year, winning the Cy Young. And did you actually ever participate in any of those like desert bullpen sessions he did?
No, I wish I would have. I didn't know that they were really going on. I wish I would have, though, because that would have been pretty cool. And I watched those videos after, um, once he posted them, and after I knew what was going on. But man, what a great teammate. The guy, the way he prepares his body and mind for every start, is actually really, really cool to see. And the amount of work that he puts into, obviously, I mean, you saw it this year, being, like you said, the Cy Young. Guy deserves it. I mean, his training regimen, his knowledge of other hitters, the way he studies the game. I think, he's 3-4 years ahead of everybody else in the baseball world, just between like a sports science baseball world. And I've taken things from him and other guys that have been, that I was around with the Reds. that I've put in the back of my mind. But man, Trevor's he's one of a kind, and very fortunate to be one of his teammate this past season.
I mean, obviously Trevor is not going anywhere, like out of the games anytime soon. But Trevor, with his personality, he'd be perfect for Barstool Sports. I feel like him and Port. No, I mean he's already been on like Pat McAfee's show. He's been a guest on there a couple times. He's just an awesome personality. I think probably the best personality in the game of baseball right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, he understands it. He really knows how to communicate with fans. And I think baseball's missing that a little bit.
I would agree with you 100% on that one.
Compared to other sports. And, he does a great job with the vlogs and the way he, talks to people through Twitter. It's really cool to see, basically a guy, who won the Cy Young this year. He basically videoed everything everything he did from the time he woke up to what he had for breakfast and everything, so that the fans can see. And I think that was really cool for fans that did follow that. It was really cool with what he did.
I mean, obviously Trevor, one of the best. I mean, he's had his run-ins with the commissioner. I mean, he's got some awesome cleats collection. I mean, just by far one of the best guys. And I want to talk about you actually recorded a hit off the guy who finished second in the Cy Young voting, Yu Darvish, who one of the best pitchers in the game right now, one of the best pitchers on the Cubs. I'd say either him or Kyle Hendricks would be up for that. But does your like approach change when you're facing like a big dog like that, like one of the best pitchers in the game? Does your approach to the plate on deck, does it change at all?
Yeah, I think, well, from every pitcher, it varies. You just kind of got to know, like I said, what his best stuff does. So for me, like for against you, it's like he's throws a ton of cutters. He's got 98 in his back pocket whenever he wants it. He's got three different curveballs or sliders, whatever you want to call them.
He's got some awesome hair.
He's got some great, he's got a good, yeah. I mean, but like for me, it's, especially this year and just getting, a taste of major league pitching. It's like, you can hit these guys, but you got to understand, to hit these guys, you have to understand what they're doing, what their favorite things to go do are. Like, how is Yu Darvish going to get me out? And when I understand how Yu Darvish is going to get me out, then I can create an approach, and that approach is going to be different when Craig Kimbrell comes into the game, or Ryan Tepera was in the game, or, whoever it might have been that I had at bats off of against the Cubs. I think, with the amount of information that we have on each pitcher and what their ball does when they throw it, or what pitches they like to throw in certain counts, or, how Yu Darvish gets left-handed hitters out. And you start realizing how they're, what's going on. And then that you create an approach and you see how, maybe Yu's not throwing his fastball that much today. So I can just eliminate his fastball, or he's not throwing his curveball for a strike, or whatever it may be. You try to eliminate certain things and get it out of your head, so your head's not cluttered. For me that day, you attacked me with a ton of cutters. But I have to respect, like I said, that he's got 98 in his arm whenever he wants it. And now I was lucky I didn't see that. He didn't throw me a straight four-seam fastball, and I don't remember if I had 2 or 3 at bats off him, but basically all cutters and different shapes and speeds of curveballs. So, it's all a learning process. So next time I face him, pay attention, depending on when I'm hitting in the order, I'll be paying attention to guys in his previous start, how he got left-handed hitters out, how he's getting our left-handed hitters out, or what he's doing to try to get outs, and try to just base an approach around that.
Yeah, and then I want to talk about your first major league career hit. You're in Miller Park, or now called American Family Ballpark, which I think is a terrible name. I thought Miller Park was perfect for the Brewers. It's Wisconsin. Beer. I mean, the colors are like the Brewers colors.
For sure.
But yeah, you're there. I believe was it Adrian Hauser pitching?
I got a hit off him, but I got it. My first one was off of Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah, Brandon Woodruff, who's a great pitcher. And when I'm watching the highlight, like the announcers are obviously like they're thinking the ball's gone, like it was absolute rocked. I don't know what Freddie Galvis was doing. He should have scored on that one. But well, just like what was going through your mind before that at bat, and when you're standing on second base and David Bell's holding your ball in the air?
Yeah, no, so that obviously very cool for the whole dugout, to see the whole dugout when I got the hit and I looked in there, um, just to see everybody kind of clap in and the ball getting held up, and very surreal, and shows that I had teammates that really cared, not just about themselves, but they care about other people, and they care about other people succeeding in the game, and they wanted to win just as bad. And at the end of the day, whether it's day one in the big leagues or day 10 years, whatever, it's about winning that 9 inning game. So I was around a bunch of good teammates, and see them all up on the railing clapping was really cool. But it took me, I think that was my fourth at bat. So, I had a pinch hit in the day I got called up. I got 2 at bats the next day. And then, so it was my fifth at bat. So I was 0 for 4 actually between 3 games before getting that hit. Um, and like I said, just tried creating a good approach against Woodruff, who throws a lot of fastballs up in the zone. And he's got a pretty good 12-6 curveball off of it. Throws a changeup occasionally, if I remember right. But like I said, just squaring it up, and I felt good off the bat. Thought I had a chance of going. I always tell myself, like, I'm not big enough to hit the ball out to center. I got to use the shortcuts down the line. But and just seeing the ball find hit the wall, or just letting it hit the ground, and like nobody else catching it, and knowing you have it under your belt, and it just feels good. Felt good to get it out of the way. And um and you're just like, you're happy the first one's out, now you can just relax and play baseball. And I think that's, I heard that is, as soon as you get the first one out of the way, everything kind of slows down a little bit. Not saying the game was super sped up, but um the heart's racing, and it was racing, every game I played in as a big leaguer. Hopefully it'll slow down at some point. I know it'll slow down, but hopefully sooner than later. And it was a pretty cool moment.
And I got a couple questions to you about your uniform number here because
Yeah,
uh, I've seen Chicago. 34 is a big number. Walter
for
Payton,
sure.
Kerry Wood, John Lester. 34 is a big number. So I don't know. Did you pick 34? Like, was that was that your number of? Was that your first choice?
No, it was actually, so we have our clubhouse guy gave me that number, who was actually a big Walter Payton fan. Um, it's funny because the Reds C is the same C as the Bears,
Eh,
just obviously just different colors. But yeah, so no, the clubhouse manager gave me that number. He was calling me sweetness in the locker room, and
that's
and
awesome.
all this stuff. So it was pretty cool. I was originally, when, like I said, when I got Rule 5'd over there, you don't really get a choice of your number. And, when you're a minor leaguer that's got no big league time, you usually have a pretty high number in spring training.
Yeah, like
Um,
70s.
70s, 80s, 90s, so for me, it was like, as long as he gives me a number under 60, I don't care what it is. I'm just gonna be happy, that I have a big league number. And, 34, it's a low number. You get respected from people for having a lower number. And, um, it was cool to wear 34, just to have any number, on a big league jersey is very special. But,
I mean, just have your name on the back.
yeah, so like that was cool, that he put the 2 and 2 together. We joke around about it, but being from Chicago, and I know that that number carries a lot of weight, in the city of Chicago. Especially with Peyton on the back. And um, hopefully it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings in Walter's family that I'm wearing that number right now. But
The same last name.
yeah, so it's just kind of crazy, but very cool, very
Yeah,
very cool.
that's very cool. Yeah, and then I don't want to keep you much longer, but I have a couple more questions. How are you preparing for the 2021 season in this off season where a vaccine's coming out? Like we're still sort of in a pandemic, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, just taking it just like any other off season. This year I have a little bit more information. kind of after playing in the big leagues and the amount of information we got there, just how pitchers in the big leagues are succeeding. And for me, I'm doing a lot of the same things for my body, maybe eating even a little cleaner than I usually do, just to try, decrease inflammation and make sure my body can recover at a good pace. Nothing different with my throwing. Everything's kind of the same there, obviously trying to get as strong and as fast as possible. But for me, it's about hitting, and to play in the big leagues, you got to hit. Like I'm not going to, I'll never steal 30 bases in a year. So I'll never be a speed guy, or, not going to throw out 35 runners, and I'm not going to have 35 outfield assists, or whatever the case. I'm not going to rob a ton of homers. So for me, it's like I got to hit to play in the big leagues and do the little things right. And I'm not going to make any swing adjustments, but for me, watching and kind of just being a student of the game, the amount of high fastballs and high cutters, and then a little bit sharper of a curveball. So for me, the more I can see that, and the more I can learn how to hit those pitches, whether it be off a machine or be off of a BP pitcher that's just closer to me, to try to basically emulate some type of game atmosphere. That's what I've been doing, because I know, the game of baseball right now is fastballs up, and it's a very tough pitch to hit. You see guys all the time right now on a 2-0 hitters count. They're swinging through it. They're swinging and missing at a 2-0 fastball at the top of the zone. It's a very, very tough pitch to hit.
Javi Baez, especially.
Yeah, a lot of guys, man. It's
Chris Bryant for sure.
It's a crazy amount of guys, and that's where pitchers are throwing fastballs now. So, and that's different than 3 years ago. And me just watching these guys pitch, and the really good pitchers, and I just want to match that. My goal is not to beat that. I don't want to create a swing. I mean, it would be great, but you can't. So for me to just try to match that and understand how to hit that pitch and those pitches without changing my swing, is basically what I've put my focus on this off season.
We've had a pretty serious podcast right now, but I'm going to ask you kind of like a funny question. It'll probably make you laugh.
Yeah.
Would you rather take a fastball to the ribs from Trevor Bauer or get punched from Amir Garrett?
Oh, I don't know. Neither. No, I mean, obviously both great guys. I don't know how to answer that. Oh man.
Personally, I think Garrett could go and beat Floyd Mayweather in a fight.
Yeah,
he looked nasty versus the Pirates. Yeah.
I think. I mean, man. You said punched in the face or the ribs?
I just punched anywhere, really. I just said get punched.
I don't know. I don't know if I want 96 to 97 off of the ribs, or an extremely strong human to punch me in the ribs. I think I'm probably going to go fastball off the ribs.
That's what I would have taken.
Just because I think that'll heal a little bit quicker. Trevor, I hope you're not listening to that, because I don't want to take a fastball off the ribs. But
I mean, Trevor signs somewhere outside Cincinnati, and the first pitch you face him.
I don't need that. But no, I obviously both great teammates though, and I just think a baseball might hurt a little bit less than a fist.
Yeah, as funny as that is. And then last question, who would you say is your favorite player currently in the MLB? Like, who do you look up to? Who do you think is like the best of the best? I mean, obviously you have your Mike Trouts, your Ronald Acuna Jr.'s, Cody Bellinger's, Mookie Betts.
Yeah. I mean, if you take those guys out, I mean, obviously the amount of, how electric Mookie is as a player, is just so fun to watch, because he does it. He could, he can literally take over a game, between whether it's stealing, like, you don't see many guys do what he can do, whether it's a homer or a single that turns into a double, or a bunt, or throwing a guy out, or making an acrobatic play, or going first to third on a base hit to center field. But I've been watching, like, I enjoy watching Michael Brantley play. I love watching DJ LeMahieu hit.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu.
I mean, it's
who was once a Cub, and that was one of the worst trades in Cubs history.
So for me, man, favorite player. I mean, it might be, I don't know. Tatis is so good too.
And I like how electric he is.
Oh,
He's just like Bauer, just
yeah.
emotions, just as they rule his game. They
Yeah, he's just playing like a kid, and for me, I think especially to get fans back involved in a younger, not saying anything about our fan base, but just get like the younger generation of baseball fans back into the game. I
Yeah, for
think.
sure. I would say millennials and people of Gen Z like myself love Tatis, love Trevor Bauer, but
Yes.
obviously the older fans, like my dad per se, uh, not a big fan of them.
Yeah, I think no, I would probably say right now, I mean, because I'm a huge offensive guy. I mean, just I love watching Michael Brantley hit, and DJ LeMahieu hit. But I think if I had to watch one guy every single day, it would probably be Mookie, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
I love his swing. I'm trying to resemble my swing to his. Like
Mm-hmm.
the minute his foot hits the ground, he's going. His swing is
Yes.
starting. That's
Yes.
that's that's what I'm trying to work on right now in this off season, getting ready for my junior high school season. So yeah, and I didn't have a sophomore high school season, so
Yeah, you get to
and
make that big jump now.
yeah, I mean, I did pretty well freshman year. I batted over 500 in freshman ball, which I'll take it.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, obviously, but yeah, going back, sorry, that's Tatis and Bauer. Younger fans love them. That's why the NFL and NBA is so popular because guys play with emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But like these older guys, like my dad, I'm saying like they don't like him because they're not playing the game how they think it's supposed to be
Yeah,
played.
the traditionalist. I think there's got to be for me, there's like got to be a little bit of a mixture. There's got to be baseball's got to be played with emotion. I mean, I firmly believe that because when there's emotion in the game, you get the most out of players. Um, but like the unwritten rules, I'm still more of a baseball traditionalist in that sense.
So like
Uh,
Wilson Contreras when he hit that bat flip to the moon, which I thought was awesome. I mean,
yeah, I think there's got to be a line. I think there's got to be some type of line. I think, um, there's a bunch of things out there. You had the Tatis grand slam on a 3-0 count up by 4 and, late in the game. Like, um, people you're either on that side or against that side. There's teams that, you know, shift, right? Everybody's shifting in baseball. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, you know, it's not, is it okay to bunt when you're up by 5 and the shift is on? Like there's that, you don't know, like,
I definitely say you cannot bunt with a no hitter.
right. I agree, but like pitchers, you get and then on the other reverse side, you have, late in the game up by 3 or 4, and you have a team gets a base hit. The first baseman doesn't hold the runner on. The guy steals second, gets a defensive indifference. He doesn't get a stolen base, but now next guy gets a hit or whatever the case, and they score a run. That run goes on the pitcher,
Yeah.
but we weren't even cared. The team wasn't cared about the runner. And, so like there's some things in baseball, I think that, and then people get upset about them stealing a base. Well, you just gave the guy an RBI, but you also gave the pitcher an earned run. So there's a lot of stuff in baseball, I think, that these unwritten rules, um, they just need to be talked about. And there either needs to be a new set of them or whatever the case. But at the end of the day, I do think the game needs to be played with emotion because I think fans feed off of that. You watch these European soccer leagues and their fan bases, or you watch Japanese or Korean baseball and you see their fan bases. You see even American football and their fan bases, even with 16,000 people in the stands, it's loud. Um, Baseball doesn't need to be a quiet event. I don't think. I think the more people can get the fans involved, and the more we can, put on a good product and a good show for people that are paying to come watch us play a game. I think fans would enjoy that.
Oh, I think they would too. And I'm gonna wrap the show up here. Thanks, Mark, for coming on the show today. And I got to get out to Cincinnati and get this jersey signed.
Absolutely, man. Come on out
Yeah,
whenever.
yeah, I'd definitely come out to Cincinnati for a game. I was looking forward to that this year. I had a calendar. It was like the first weekend in June. I'm right out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Cubs were in Cincinnati. I'm like, I'm gonna go that weekend. I'm like, of course, COVID and everything. So hopefully fans will be allowed back in
Yes.
this year. and I'm looking forward to the season. Hopefully it starts on time because I'm seeing all this stuff like it might get pushed back to May. I hope it doesn't. I mean, based on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball schedule, it looks like it's not, but that can always change. But Mark, thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I had an absolute blast.
All right. This has been episode 30 of Zoomer Sports Radio. Thanks to Mark, and thank you for listening. Make sure you check out Zoomer Sports on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.